QSK-78 engines utilize a two-stage turbocharging system. Care must be taken when handling the bellows connections. While the bellows are intended to compensate for linear expansion in the exhaust system, they are not intended to compensate for misalignment. Do not flex the bellows during installation. The aftercoolers lower the temperature of the intake air before it enters the combustion chambers. Each aftercooler receives airflow from a high-pressure turbocharger. The low-temperature aftercooling, or LTA system, provides coolant flow through the intercoolers and aftercoolers. This system is isolated from the coolant flow in the rest of the engine. The LTA system keeps coolant at a lower temperature. This allows the intake air to be kept at temperatures well below the temperature of the coolant that maintains engine temperature. The intercooler receives airflow from the two-stage low-pressure turbochargers. LTA coolant flowing through the intercooler lowers the temperature of the intake air before it is delivered to the high-pressure turbochargers. By cooling the intake air before and after the high-pressure turbochargers, the overall intake air temperature is decreased. Intake airflow in the QSK-78 engine begins as the intake air is drawn through the air cleaner into the 6 low-pressure turbochargers by the compressor wheels. Compressing the intake air causes its temperature to increase. After leaving the 6 low-pressure turbochargers, the hot intake air flows through the air outlet pipes to either the front-mounted or rear-mounted intercooler. The 2 low-pressure turbochargers mounted toward the front of the engine and the right-side middle turbocharger supply intake air to the front intercooler. The 2 low-pressure turbochargers mounted toward the rear of the engine and the middle turbocharger on the left side supply intake air to the rear intercooler. As the intake air flows through the fins of the intercooler, heat from the air is transferred to the LTA coolant, decreasing the air temperature. After passing through an intercooler, the intake air travels through the air inlet pipes to 3 of the high-pressure turbochargers. The front intercooler feeds the front 2 high-pressure turbochargers and the right middle high-pressure turbo. The rear intercooler feeds the remaining 3 high-pressure turbochargers. In the high-pressure turbochargers, the intake air is compressed further. This increased boost pressure supplies the airflow needed for the increased horsepower of the QSK-78 engine. From the high-pressure turbocharger in each of the 6 segments, the intake air flows to the aftercoolers. In the aftercoolers, heat from the intake air transfers to the coolant flowing through the aftercooler tubes, thus decreasing the temperature of the intake air. From the aftercoolers, airflow continues to each of the cylinders. When a cylinder's intake valves open, air flows into the combustion chamber. After the valves close, the upward movement of the piston compresses the air in the cylinder. Near the top of piston travel, fuel is injected into the compressed air in the cylinder, generating combustion. After combustion is complete, the piston begins its upward stroke. This forces exhaust gas out of the cylinder past the open exhaust valves. Exhaust gas then flows out of the cylinders into the exhaust manifolds. The 6 high-pressure turbochargers are driven by the exhaust gas. The exhaust outlet from each of the high-pressure turbochargers connects to the exhaust transfer connection through exhaust piping and exhaust bellows. The transfer connection, mounted on each bank of the engine, transfers the exhaust gas from the high-pressure turbochargers to the low-pressure turbochargers. Exhaust gas exiting from the left front high-pressure turbocharger flows to the exhaust inlet of the left front low-pressure turbocharger. This pattern repeats for the other 5 high-pressure, low-pressure turbocharger combinations. From the exhaust outlet of each of the low-pressure turbochargers, the exhaust gas travels through another set of bellows to one of the exhaust outlet connections. Some of the exhaust at the left exhaust outlet was created by cylinders on the right side of the engine, and some exhaust on the right side was created by cylinders on the left bank. Refer to the chart for exact exhaust system routing.